All right. Gender at the mediation table. I need you to notice a couple of things. One, gender is in parentheses. So what we were talking about, and we'll talk about through this entire presentation, is software, not hardware, in regards to gender. Okay? So we're going to be talking about not the biological equipment associated with the gender. We are going to be talking about the psychological processes that are associated with the gender. Now, as we go through this and talk about it, it's going to be very easy for you to slip back into the hardware identification. Oh, this is a woman, and this is what a woman does or thinks, and I will continually bring you back to, no, we're talking software, not hardware. All right? So that's the first thing I want you to notice. The second is the number one resource that prompted this presentation is a book by Terrence Real, How Can I Get Through to You? Terrence Real is a very well-known, popular these days couples counselor. And his area of specialty is men, the male experience. And this is his first book. I think it was published in 2002. How do I get through to you? And he came to his experience with his expertise in the male experience through addiction world, and then on into the couples world, and then into the male experience. He's written another book called I Don't Want to Talk About It, which is again about the male experience, but predominantly about male depression. And the characteristics of male depression and female depression are fundamentally different. And then his most recent book are the New Rules of Marriage. So that's kind of launched his national recognition as a couples counselor. I read this book, and this was 2002. Now, when I was at Emory doing my doctoral work, it was a religion department. My area of specialty was 19th and 20th century thought. So part of that education put me into the area of Holocaust education, and for a number of years I was an expert in the Holocaust in the Southeast region. I served on the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust under Zell Miller's request as the only Christian on the commission. Traveled the state and doing training, lesson plans, curriculum writing for public school teachers, every age level, but primarily middle school and high school teachers, teaching the lessons of the Holocaust, prejudice reduction, good citizenship, don't be a bully, don't be a bystander, stuff like that. Well, also as part of that education process was feminism. So I was fortunate enough at the time I was at Emory that some of the greatest feminist thinkers of our time were very popular. Right? They were on the speaking circuit. They were writing these great books, and of course, I put myself in a position taking this feminism courses and doing these readings to get outside the prejudicial circle of 2 plus A and 2A plus 2A plus 1. So in other words, I had plenty of colleagues in my graduate program that were very willing to love me enough to tell me just exactly how much of an idiot I was. Tremendous learning experience. My primary interest in feminism wasn't just the fact that it was 19th, 20th century thought, but that I have 3 girls. And even the cat at home was a girl. So, I mean, I had a lot of opportunity to practice these skills. Well, at this time at Emory, when I'm reading all these books and doing all this research and learning all these and just really growing, there was also an attempt at that time for the men to write about the male experience. It was like, hey, all these women are a feminist movement, and let's talk about the female experience. Well, we need something on the men experience. And so there were several authors that wrote several books, all of which was crap. None of it was any good. They had Iron John, Fire in the Belly. This is where They were coming out with, oh, we need to go out in the woods, get naked, screaming around a campfire, back to the primordial hunter kind of. Like I said, all of it was no good. None of it resonated with any of my experience at all. Well, in an effort to keep up with the research over the years, reading various books on relationship and male experience and all that stuff, trying to keep up, I stumbled upon Terrence's book in 2002. Okay, and this is like 12 years after I've graduated, way past the research time. And I'm reading this book, and here it is. Finally, 12, 15 years after the feminist movement gets launched, right? Finally, a book comes out that describes the male experience in such a way that I could identify with. I go, this is it. Finally, somebody. Took 15 years to find, but here it is. Somebody's finally written it. And as I'm reading this, I'm going, I see this behavior at my mediation table. This book is not about mediation. It's not even that much about conflict. It's about the male experience. And I'm sitting here going, I've got to translate this book into this setting. So I created this presentation, Gender at the Mediation Table, and then I have been asked to travel all across the country given this presentation. And so and we'll talk about the different kind of responses I get as a result of that, but here it is now for you. Gender at the Mediation Table, Terrence Real. I owe a great deal to. So I've read all of his stuff. Here we go. I even went to a seminar on couples and sat here at Atlanta at his feet as he taught. Say yes. Terrence, one of his quotes that I love, I pulled out, sustaining a relationship with others requires a good relationship with yourself. This is a cornerstone of CRA philosophy and anything that we do. People are always asking me, what can I do to learn more about being a good mediator? My advice, what mediation books? I don't draw people to mediation books. I draw them to self-help books. If you want to be a good mediator, work on yourself. Remember yesterday I was telling you the communication skills. I knew nothing about I statements and how poorly I was managing communication at this table until I learned I statements, and it transformed, my personal relationships. It also transformed my ability to be effective at this table. So work on yourself. This principle has many applications. I mean, it is worded in many different ways. In religious settings, this is how it's worded. You love your neighbor as yourself, which actually means that you can't love your neighbor any more than you love yourself. So if you really want to love your neighbor, love yourself. John Maxwell, motivational speaker. I don't know if anybody's done any of that stuff. He's written several books, one of which is called 21 Laws of Leadership. He calls it the principle of the lid. And that means that I, as a person, as a human being, as a leader, cannot take people somewhere I have never been. So I can only lead people up to the direction or up to the extent of the experience that I myself have owned. So if I am going to be a great mediator here, then I need to be able to take people places where I have been. So I need to work on myself. That's basically what this is talking about. You cannot have a good relationship with others unless you are working on your relationship with yourself. We're going to come back to that in just a few minutes. What else he talks about is psychological patriarchy. Now, we all know what patriarchy is. It's the systemic, structural limitations created against women in society. So, for the longest time, we talked about glass ceilings in organizations. Women could not progress up, and even if they could, there was a discrepancy between pay. So all of those issues. We have come a long way in the past 100 years of women's rights. Okay, the first woman was admitted to Harvard University in 1905. Okay, now Harvard University's been around for a long, long time. The question became, where do the women go to the bathroom? There's not one female restroom on the entire campus. So in order to address this architectural imposed systemic oppression, right? We're talking in terms of systemic structures. They built ladies' rooms under every, well, many, not every, stairwell. So you have the stairs that go up like this. They'll put a wall here, slap a door in it, put a toilet inside. So every time a woman went to the restroom, she was reminded that she was an afterthought. So it's basically Harry Potter's bedroom, right? Watched, sleeping under the stairwell. That's what we mean by patriarchy. Now, we've come a long way. There's been great improvements. There's been changes out there in the systemic structures that exist in society, and women have more opportunities. We still have quite a ways to go, no doubt about it. The number one discussion that we're having, this debate around today that epitomizes the structure, is childcare. Childcare. Childcare in the corporate setting. Should the corporation take on and provide childcare facilities so that either the husband or the wife, mother or father, can come downstairs and spend time with? There's another way of opening up and loosening up the structures that have for so long held women back. Well, what Terence does in his book is says, all right, we all know patriarchy and the oppression that it can create. But what we don't have such a handle on is psychological patriarchy. And what he is suggesting is that those structures exist out there. He doesn't actually address this, but what came first? The structures here, and then we created them? Or did they create out there, and then we had them in here? Doesn't matter, chicken and the egg. The fact is that we have these systemic structures inside our psyche, inside our very being. So this is how he defines psychological patriarchy. The devaluing of the feminine in oneself, not just out there in society, in oneself, as well as in others, coupled with the instinct to protect the masculine, even at great cost to oneself and others. Okay? That's the definition, and that exists inside here. Given the definition, he says there are 3 rings that surround psychological patriarchy, kind of like fences. The first ring is bifurcation. We have literally taken humanity, let's call humanity a sheet of paper, and we ripped it in half, male, female. As soon as that event takes place, the other 2 rings exist. Now that we have these 2 halves, the question is, what's the relationship of these 2 halves? How do they relate to each other? How do we define their relationship together? And then third is a conspiracy of silence. You can get in trouble for talking about this. I have gotten in trouble for talking about this. Okay? So in other words, we don't talk about this battle inside. We barely get a chance to actually address it out there. We certainly don't want to talk about it in here. So, let's talk about ring number 1. Now, Terence, and I've used this list, characteristics of the masculine, characteristics of the feminine. I have taken words that you are familiar with. You will have a visceral response to these words. That's okay. It saves me time, then I don't have to define or explain each of the words. You will already understand this, and you've heard this before. So we're going to take the stereotypical words and just talk about them. The masculine versus the feminine characteristics. We've rent humanity in 2. Now let's talk about the relationship. The masculine is characterized by strength. Muscular, physical, emotional, psychological strength. The woman is epitomized by weakness. Let me carry those for you. Let me lift that for you. Let me handle that situation for you. Weakness. Masculine is characterized as logical or rational. The woman is characterized as being more emotional, or in some cases, over-emotional. The man is characterized as A sense of aggression. Football, tackle, you fall down, scratch your leg. Don't cry. There's no crying in baseball, right? Get up, brush it off. Come on, be a man. Aggression. Hoo, slap each other on the butt, but don't let anybody see, right? Hit each other in the arm. The women are characterized as yielding. Why can't we all just get along, right? Yielding. Giving up rather than pushing forward. The male is characterized as anti-dependent. I don't need anybody. I am self-sufficient. I can take care of myself. I don't need a handout. I don't need help. I'm not lost. I don't need to ask for directions. Whereas the woman is characterized as dependent. I can't live without you. I need you in my life. You complete me. Okay? The male is characterized as goal-oriented. Climb that ladder of success. Reach the top. What is your office location? What is your business title? What do you drive? All measures of goal accomplishment and success. Versus women that are often characterized as process-oriented. It's not about the result, it's about how you get there. Is it worth stomping on all these people just so you could get the top office? And the man goes, I don't understand the question. Masculine, characterized by insensitivity, not easily hurt, an armor, thick skin. Whereas the woman is characterized as oversensitive. You just cry at the drop of a hat. All right? Now, I'm doing this presentation for the Navy. Navy military intelligence. And one of the women in the room goes, and I go, what? What? She goes, every performance evaluation I've had here in the Navy, my boss tells me I need to develop thicker skin. You need to be more like a... Now she understands the assignment. She couldn't figure out what he was talking about before. So out of these two lists, which one would you rather be? You'd rather be more masculine? All right, thanks for your honesty. I appreciate that. How about the rest of you? What would you rather be? Say it again. Masculine. Yeah. Good job. What about you two? Same? Masculine?
No, I agree on the way, not the way, because the code word feminine are not always entirely positive.
Yes.
If you were to say someone is weak, emotional, building, dependent, those are all attributes of someone those are all negative.
Negative attributes. Well, I appreciate that because usually what I get in a group is somebody, the first answer I usually get is, oh, I want to be both. And my answer to that is, well, thank you for the politically correct answer now. And then I have to reframe the question. Out of these two, which group do you suppose stands the better chance of being successful in our culture? And then everybody says, oh yeah, it's the masculine side. You will harm your career path if in the management meeting you cry. Especially if you're the CEO. Okay? I mean, it's impossible. I mean, just imagine that, in this upper management meeting, we're sitting there, just the way the employees are being treated, it's just, you're not going to stay in that organization. You're not going to move up. They are not going to give you any, because you're going to be classified as the feminine side. It's just not going to work. Interesting sidebar. For the diversity class I'm teaching at Sullivan University Online, I gave them 2 books to choose to read. One is Bell Hook's book called Feminist Theory. The other book is called You Just Don't Understand by Deborah Tannen. You could pick either book you wanted. The assignment was to read it, create a PowerPoint presentation to present to the rest of the class who didn't read the book. Nobody in the entire class picked Feminist Theory. Nobody. So I sent out an email. I'm curious. Why not? And I had at least one person come back and said because it had the word feminist in it. This was a woman. Comes back because it has the word feminist. I had another come back and say, well, I read a book like that in college, and that's just not me. You know, in other words, it's feminist, right? It was really just fascinating, just the whole sense of, I think also because of the word theory, they felt like it might be a little more academic. Just to be fair to the rest of the students, those that said they chose You Don't Understand, the subtitle to that is the book's about communication between men and women. And they felt like they could help themselves personally and professionally by reading the one book rather than reading the other. So I was kind of stacked there, but I was surprised that nobody picked the book. All right. Strengths, weaknesses. Yeah, I want to be on the masculine side. And in fact, I've been trained to be on the masculine side. In fact, with so much time I've spent in the academy, I was awarded success, opportunity for being on the masculine side. What psychological patriarchy creates in that second ring, once the bifurcation is created, defining the relationship between the two, there is no middle ground. You're either one or the other. You're either masculine or feminine. We don't have a hybrid that says, hi. We don't, you're one or the other. It's a dilemma. No middle ground. And it's war against the feminine. Now here's the trick. This war is going on inside of all of us, whether you're male or female. Inside all of us. It's a power over. I've got to find a way to manage this feminine side inside of me. I've got to define the relationship between my feminine and my masculine, and how am I going to do that? Based upon the rewards and the feedback I get from those around me, society. So if I live in a corporate world, and that corporate world says you've got to be masculine, then I am taught every single day to oppress half of myself day in and day out. And then I wonder why I have difficulty with personal relationships and intimacy. No middle ground. It creates a silence that provokes two kinds of abuses. One is disempowering abuse, which is called shame. The second is false empowerment, which is called grandiosity. Terence has carved a niche in himself, and he's brilliant with this. All of the really relevant research that's being done in the area of grandiosity is coming from Terence Real. So the work that Terence Real and Pia Mellody have done in this area is phenomenal. So if you want to pursue that, it's really, really good stuff. Disempowering abuse is shame. False empowerment is grandiosity. This is inside. Now, we can talk about manifestations out there, social structures for this, right? Organizations becoming grandiose, right? But let's talk about it inside. Now, shame, definition of shame. Empathy deficiency toward oneself. It's missing the capacity to cherish oneself. I mean, just to wrap your arms around yourself in the morning after the shower, and you're looking in that mirror and go, God, I love you. You're just wonderful. Missing that capacity to do that and revel in it. Shame. The extreme expression of shame is suicide, figuratively and literally. So here's the question I have for you. The only thing you're going to have at this table in order to determine abuse, false empowerment, or shame empowerment, disempowering abuse, is body language and language, the words they use. So my question to you is, how would someone look sitting at this table practicing disempowering abuse? Okay, slumped. What else? What else might trigger for you a thought that this person is sitting in a pool of shame? No eye contact. Now, we've already talked about the cross-cultural stuff, so I've got to determine, And actually, some of those cultures that don't give eye contact are heavily shame-based, self-effacing. What else might you look for?
Very quiet.
Very quiet, diminutive. They may actually even fold in upon themselves. Okay? What language might you hear from somebody who is shame-based? Give me some words. Give me 3 numbers. No, give me some words. Give me 3 words.
I'm sorry.
I'm what?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes. So I'm breathing. I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm taking up space.
Non-committal.
Non-committal.
They avoid conflict. Try to avoid conflict.
Yes. An interest in making sure that I make everybody else happy, maybe even at my own expense. Okay, now again, you're seeing that definition of patriarchy. I am not important, everybody else is. This is that war. Let's oppress the feminine side and protect the masculine side. Again, I'm going to remind you, this could be a male body doing this. It's not just a woman. Because now we're talking about grandiosity, empathy deficiency toward others. Missing the capacity to cherish those around me. Oh, you're wonderful. Oh, I'm so glad you're in my life. Oh, I'm just glad you're here. This is great, right? Missing that capacity to cherish those around us. Its extreme expression is homicide, figuratively and literally. So now we ask the question. Go ahead.
Sorry. I just missed the connection between the premise of gender.
Yes,
But I see both genders.
that's it. Yep, exactly.
And if you were to say what gender is, I could tell if we're talking about male, female, or the patriarch.
Exactly. Which is to say, can I get a female body? So I can have a male. It's not just the females that are shame-based. I can get a male body in this chair sitting in a pool of shame. I can get a female body in this chair grandiose. So don't get caught up in what you see as far as the hardware is concerned. I need you to be paying attention to the software. That's what this is. That's why gender is in parentheses. See, society is teaching us what is appropriate male and female. It is also teaching us how to be male and female. It is also teaching us how to relate to the other when you're the other. That's where it's screwing us up. So, can I get a woman who is grandiose, able to commit homicide? Now, to give you the profession that this can be most obvious in terms of a woman being able to do this. And that is an aggressive, litigative female attorney. You are never going to succeed as an attorney, especially as a female, but attorney at all, if you manifest any of the feminine characteristics. So, yes, can she be there? Now, this woman makes it to the top of the corporate ladder, and what she gets on her nameplate isn't CEO, but the letter before C, right? Before C. Yes, exactly. Right? Now, isn't that a wonderful double standard? There it is. Grandiosity. So what kind of behavior, body language, are you going to see from the grandiose person at this table? So, show me. There you go. All right. What else? Because that's the only clues you're going to have. Body language sitting at that table. Yes. What else are you going to see?
Say the question again.
What body language are you going to see that communicates a sense of grandiosity? I don't need you. I'm not interested in being connected to you. There's nothing between us that I need. I'm self-sufficient, independent on my own. I can't be touched. Raised head, that arrogant posture, maybe arms crossed, right? Here's another grandiose position. It's not, what you expect. It's grandiose, just as well. Looks like it's open posture, right? No, you're not touching me. Nothing here can affect me. All right? So you may see that. Like I told you the other day, I had a party that actually turned his chair completely around during party's opening statement. That's okay. Don't need to say anything about that. Let it go. Just keep going. All right? Grandiosity. What kind of words are you going to hear this person use that indicates their aloofness? Okay, good. What else? Good. Intimidating. No, they're not going to be listening at all. What they think is the most important thing in this room, and everybody else is an idiot for not listening to them. Okay? Bullying tactics as well. What you're also going to notice, and these two are intimately connected, the grandiose person practices shame. They will shame the other person. Your opinion's not worth it. You're not valuable. What you think is you're nothing. So they will often practice shame on the other person in order to elevate themselves up. In conflict, we tend to recreate what we know. We go back into a default mode in the midst of conflict, almost a survival instinct. We kick back to what's most familiar to us, and I'm here to tell you there is nothing more familiar to us than psychological patriarchy. This is our default mode. We will drop back into this, which is going to, if we're not careful, create either shame or grandiosity. It's going to create that tendency to oppress the feminine and elevate the masculine. Male negotiator. What happens now with this person in this room at this table? All right, we're doing the translation process. Again, don't confuse the body. Don't worry about the hardware. This could be a female body, it could be a male body, but from the software point of view, they're a male negotiator. That feminine, that female litigant who is successful in that law firm is a male negotiator, and she'll do it at this table. Okay? So don't get lost in the hardware. Uh-huh. See, there you go. And there's almost a shaming if you don't. If you become the soft, but you're not going to get respected. See, that's where our society reinforces this war inside over and over again. So in the male world, the male negotiator, the male world lives in a one-up, one-down spatial system. And we measure our value based upon this pecking order. There's this pecking order that exists. It's a one-up, one-down world. I'm either one up or I'm one down. There's no lateral move available. If you think of that ladder of success, there's no stepping off and letting somebody else pass. You step off, you die. You fall. You start over. So you climb up and you climb over. And so we measure each other. And men will do this. I know we don't talk about it, but men will do this. We'll walk into a room, right, and we'll measure each other's suits and shoes. Oh, wow. Hi. Right? We don't talk about this, but we do. We measure status that way. Oh, that's a $600 suit. I don't own a $600 suit. And I'm sure everybody in this room knows that already. Right? We do that. Cars we drive, the same thing. You know, they make the joke about, well, he's overcompensating for something. That's not real far from that. All right. It's a one-up, one-down world that leaves very little room for connection or repair. I'm either one up and one down, which leads to this next one. Either I am on top or I'm on bottom. Those are the only two possibilities in the male negotiator world. Now, which would you rather be? Would you rather be the controller or the controlled? And every one of us will tell you we'd rather be the controlled. Would I rather be the dominator or the dominated? I guess I meant controller. Did I say controlled? I'd rather be the controller. Yes. Yeah, I may have slipped and said controlled. But in the other one, dominator or dominated, somebody says, what would you rather be? And my response to that is, well, depend on who she is. Sometimes I like domination. So, the possibilities are here. Now, here's what happened in the feminist movement. The feminists in the mid-'80s said, hey, why can't we be equals? Why can't we side by side? Why can't we share power? And the men, this is the response of the men. Don't be stupid. If we gave you the power, you would just oppress us. To which the feminist world responded back with, there's more than one way to do power. To which the men said, huh? Whew. Right over their heads. Now, if you'll indulge me just for a moment, this is the exact argument, the heart of the argument of apartheid in South Africa. What did the male, white, dominant system say? If we give them power, they'll just kill themselves. We need to be here controlling them, protecting them from themselves. There's only two ways to be. You're either in control or they're going to kill us. That was the argument of apartheid. Now, the point we're making here is that's false. There is more than one way to do power. But the white male system doesn't see it. Helplessness, weakness, dependency, these are qualities men are taught to fear and despise, especially in ourselves. I got to not look weak. That's why I don't ask for directions. I got to look like I don't need help. Okay? So what do? We end up privileging half of humanity. I mean, that's what we've done in the systemic structures out there, privileging half of humanity. Now, I want to back up here just for a moment and make this point. I'm going to make it later. All right? Privileging half of humanity. This privilege is also being done inside of me. I am privileging the male side and oppressing the female voice, which is why I could go 35 years without a feeling vocabulary. I only had 4 words: glad, sad, mad, and afraid. It's taken me 20 years to develop the feeling vocabulary I have now. I was rewarded oppressing the feminine side, silencing that voice. Patriarchy takes aim at any capacity to relax and create connection. So even the effort to relax and create connection inside of myself is denied me, or at least discouraged. In a visceral way, most men in our culture experience vulnerability. Here, let me open up my soul to you, as opening themselves up to being overrun. If I open myself up to you, then I'm creating this sense that I am not in control of myself or the situation, and it's going to be possible for me to be seen as weak. And then you wonder why we have commitment issues in relationships. Society has set us up to fail in relationships, those that take on the masculine side. Okay? So that becomes part of the problem. Now, at this table, the masculine will often take on the stoic. Can somebody tell me what stoic means? No emotion. The picture of stoic is a statue. Okay? Bronze, concrete, whatever it is. Right? A statue that is unaffected by weather, birds, people looking at it, rocks, tomatoes. It's constantly in its shape and form, unaffected by anything outside of it. Okay? That's stoic. Showing no emotion, showing no change. The feminine is often epitomized as service. Now we could think for a moment about the body language. Stoic body language, very much like the Grandiose. But tell me what the service body language would look like at a table. How would someone look at a table that was there to serve? Can you think of what they might look like sitting?
Into their seat, ready to get up again. Into their seat, ready to get up again.
Oh, I see. Get ready to get up and get something for somebody. Okay, yeah, not bad. What else? Can I get you something? Can I help you? Okay. What else might you see them sitting there, ready to serve, let's say the other person at that table, or even serve the mediator? I'm there to serve. How would they be sitting? Okay, we won't.
Trying to envision what you're saying.
Yes.
Feminine, as opposed to your feet like this, up erect, or like talking about you leaning forward.
Back straight, yep.
Possibly. The word's not the right word. I can't articulate my time.
Very good. Yeah. And watching you do it, I can see. What else might you see a service person doing?
I would think it's contemplative.
Okay. Facial expressions, open.
Their facial expressions, like they're very important. They're waiting to hear
Yes.
action that happen.
Yes. Thinking about what I need to be doing to make this thing better. Think of your hands. What would a service person do with their hands? Okay. What else? As opposed to somebody who's not there to serve. Someone who doesn't have serving hands, where would their hands be? Huh? Pockets, yeah.
I guess in the Oriental sense, or Occidental, hands are exposed.
Yes.
That's more of a service.
Right.
Fist or
Perfect. Yes, that's exactly what you're going to see here. So a service is going to be more open, palms up, and inviting, an open aura, right, about letting in. A non-service or stoic is going to be shut off. There is no opening to come in. Okay? Now, I need to play for this. There are many careers out there, industries that are associated with either masculine or feminine. Can you think of some of the career choices that are out there that are predominantly seen as masculine, stoic? Police officers, very good one, yes. Military, very good. What else? Huh? Fire department, very good, yes. Counselors as... Oh, bouncers, okay. But now let's talk about counselors. Counselors is more of a service profession, right? It's often seen as feminine. Okay? Give me some other feminine industries that are looked upon as servers. Social workers, very good. What? Huh? Say it. Yes, flight attendants, definitely. Yep.
well, I would agree 10 years ago. Now it would be a lot more. Just because I see more and more, I'd be less apt to say that.
But now wait, it's not just the body. What I'm going to see is this man who is on a feminine side profession. Nurses, yes. Yes. Okay. Now, my question to you is this. Sitting at this table, mediation, is mediation viewed as a masculine or feminine industry?
I would think that people coming there thinking that this mediator, until they get there, that this mediator is going to decide something, make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to resolve this thing.
So more like a judge
Yeah,
So-
so we need to look at it and say,
as masculine. What do the rest of you think?
Well, I compare myself to my wife always. And I can certainly see where she'd be a wonderful mediator.
Uh-huh.
Because she's so intuitive.
There you go.
Well,
Yep.
I lack that.
Ah, uh-huh.
And one thing you impressed upon me in our training is
Right. What do you two think? We have one male, one female vote.
Well, I think, I would think that, only because, of the decision making. If I was on the outside looking in, now I know we don't make any decisions.
Right.
So they make
Right.
decisions for themselves, but on the outside looking in, I would say that somehow that person is kind of empowered because they sit in that position. If I was on that.
Okay. How about you, Greg? Okay. Let me ask this question. From an attorney world point of view, how do you think the attorney world sees the world of mediation? As a masculine or a feminine? Do you see them there as servers or stoic? Yeah. Mhm. Our industry is cast on the feminine side. That's one of the reasons why we don't get respect. And when in comparison to litigation versus mediation, it's often seen as aggressive, and this is kumbaya.
I think that the attorney who goes into that mediation, he knows that has the power. I can get up and get out of here anytime.
That's right. See?
With all this being said, how many females do you get to actually come to the
A lot. A lot. There are a lot of female mediators out there. Yes. Now, this is another point in time. So I need you to understand, when you sit in this chair, I don't care how well you look, you are going to be cast in a feminine role, sitting here. Okay? It's just the way it is right now. And maybe 20 years from now, the industry will begin to change, and we'll get less of that kumbaya-ness. But right now, you're going to be cast in a feminine role. Now, also think about it in terms of... Huh? In a serving. See, notice the discomfort? Yes, exactly. I love you, man. Mwah. Now, think about it. What about union and management? One stoic and one service. Which one's service? Union. The protector of, usually. From that. Anytime you do a workplace case and you sit in this room and you've got an employee on one side, you got management on the other side, management's going to take the masculine side. They see themselves as management. They're going to cast the employee and the mediator in a service role, so they automatically come in defensive, believing it's two females against one male, even if it's a female manager. That's just the way the culture thinks. Now, I'm doing this presentation. It's an international audience, and this woman does this gasp again. So I stop. Okay, tell me what's going on. She said, I got to tell you about this mediation I had, and now I understand what happened. She said, it just seemed really weird to me at the time, but now I get it. She came out into her waiting room. Her two parties were there. And in telling the story now, she doesn't even tell what any characteristics of the other party. But there's this one guy, and he is dressed to the nines. I mean, $600 suit. He is spiffy, right? He comes in. She invites them to sit down. He gets in his chair, and as he is sitting, he turns to the mediator and says, would you get me a glass of water, please? There it is, right there. I mean, the power dynamic. He's checking out the one up, one down world. Where are you in the pecking order? Am I above you or are you above me? And he's putting her in her place.
Any idea what country that was?
It was America. Yeah, it was just an international audience that I was speaking to. Yeah. No, it was America. Dressed to the nines. So I stopped her from telling the rest of the story, and don't tell me what you did. And we went around the rest of the room. What would you do as a mediator? Jack? This guy asks you to get him a drink of water. What are you going to do?
Well, me personally,
Yeah.
I have a problem. I have to drink water all the time.
Yes.
I'm going to have water in there already.
Right.
But let's say in London, in fact, when I show up anywhere, even in the apartment, if I give water up in the dozen table, I'm going to start looking for and get me some of that water. Most of the apartments I go to the country, that I do this. So but anyway, if I'm sitting there and he or she asks me to get some water,
Let's go get it. Okay, not bad. What about the rest of you? What you going to do?
I mean, you're talking about our first reaction or professional.
You're the mediator. You've got the rest of this mediation ahead of you. What you do next could impact how this mediation goes. What are you going to?
I take my cup of water.
Uh-huh.
I take about 3 or 4 drinks. I hand it to
Okay. Here's your water.
I was spitting.
No, of course not.
No, I'm kidding. I think Jack's right. I'd say the water facilities are right around the corner. If you'd like to go get that now, we'll wait till you get back. But we have to. You know,
I mean, there's no right answer. It just, what are you going to do? What would you do?
Water, that would be nice. With a big glass.
Yeah. While you're up. Yeah.
While you're out there.
What'd you do?
Probably have like, feelings in my stomach subside. Like a little pause. And be like, yeah, that's something good I did. I would like some water.
Okay. There you go. And so what would you really do? Give me some. That sounds nice. Okay. Now, in Jack, in point of fact, and she, as we're going through this, she'd forgotten to tell us the water was right here. There was a table with water right here. So when he sits down, he saw the water. This is it's definitely a power struggle at this point. So what's she going to do? Here's what she did. She said the only categories I had to make a decision at this point was neutrality. If I give him water, it looks like I'm here and I'm partial to him. So I've got to keep my neutrality. So what she did was get everybody water service. Only reiterating see. So she kept her neutrality, but that was the only thing she could think about. See?
When they came to my office,
Uh-huh.
I would do, if that helped the situation was, that I should be acting in the water. It was my office that came to it. Go speak some water.
Yeah, and it's obviously going to make somewhat of a difference if it's at the very beginning. I mean, everybody's sitting down, right? And he's already said, could you get me a glass of water? Versus 3/4 of the way through the mediation, he turns to her and says, oh, can you get me a glass of water? There's a big difference there. So the opportunity to, that's a good idea. Here's the water over here. Come on, let's all get some. Or I could sit down and say, yeah, I've provided water for everybody. Feel free to get it anytime throughout the meeting. I mean, so, there's a number of ways to do it, but suddenly she was stunned at what he was really doing with that. So you're going to be cast as in the feminine role, no matter what you do, because our industry is viewed that way. It doesn't mean you have to be feminine. But you are here. Here's how the thinking goes. You are in this chair in order to create repair and connection. That is a feminine characteristic. I don't care what body you carry. Okay? What's wrong with our society is we think that that's diminutive. That creating repair and creating connection, it goes right back to that bifurcation. That's a feminine trait. That's weakness. That's a bad side to be on. The male negotiator's fallback position, and I'm sure Jack's even done this in a litigation setting, is to discount, retaliate, or run away. If it looks like you're not going to win, leave. So, live to fight another day. Don't just lose. Don't cave in. Don't fall down. Run away. Retaliate. Discount. Do something to get that upper hand back. See the whole language? Upper hand? It's all there for us. We use it all the time. Complaint and demand is viewed as feminine. So the employee that files gets cast into the feminine. The complainer is the nagger.
It's a tactic to negotiation to let the other party think they have you.
Uh-huh.
As long as you're aware that you use that to manipulate that to your own good.
Right.
I don't know if that's a male or from the feminine side.
the desire to be on top and the desire to be in control is a male characteristic, again, whether you're a woman or a man. Okay. So the complaint in the man is often seen as feminine. The result of the male negotiator sitting at this table is this: privileged obliviousness. Now let me explain what that means. That means I can go 35 years with a perfectly fine, normal citizen in society, awarded in the academy for this, and have oppressed half of myself for 35 years. Oppressed half of myself for 35 years. That's part of what it means. But I'll give you an example. There's a diversity conference that was done many years ago in Atlanta. And as it often does here, many of the religious leaders in Atlanta are very involved in social events, social activities, social change. This diversity conference, no different. And as part of an exercise, we went around the room and identified several ethnic groups. And the assignment was for people of that group to get together and identify characteristics of that ethnic group. Okay? Kind of like, how are we going to get to the bigger circle, not just the little prejudice circle that we were talking about earlier. And so we came to the white male group. And they said, can we have somebody that would be, willing to get together, brainstorm, create a list of the characteristics of the white male system? And one of the religious leaders raised his hand and said, yes, I'll lead that group. And if I get some of the men over here afterwards, it was a homework assignment for overnight. So after the end of this last session, got together, brainstormed a little bit, and said, why don't we do this over dinner? So they go to dinner, they talk, mixing business with pleasure, don't really make any big progress. It's starting to get 8 o'clock. He says, look, why don't we go up into my room and work on this? So they get a whiteboard, set it up. They're in the room, they're talking about it, can't come up with any ideas to fit on this thing. And so 10 o'clock they order pizza. Go on up until midnight. Midnight they look, still don't have any. A blank sheet of paper. White male characteristics. And finally about 1:30, he goes, I got it. I'll do the presentation tomorrow morning. Go ahead, go to bed. We're done. And I said, all right. So everybody went to bed. Got up, his turn, standing next to the blank sheet of paper. And this is what he says to the group. We don't know the characteristics of the white male community because we don't have to know. Privileged obliviousness. You're the ones who need to know the characteristics of the white male system if you expect to survive. Anybody in that room could have given that list in a matter of minutes, except the white males. That's privileged obliviousness. Now, this is where I make this point. What we are talking about in the area of psychological patriarchy and focusing in the area of gender at this table, we are only one very thin veneer away from the topic of racism. It's the exact same conversation. One up, one down, privileged, not privileged. Who gets the power, who does not? How do we define the relationship between me and the other? Loss of balance. There's no way I can be healthy in this society if I am spending so much time oppressing half of myself. In diversity, we talk about let's have multiple voices. Let's hear everybody. Let's hear the minority voice. We need that minority voice to survive and grow. Same thing is true inside of me. That minority voice, the feminine voice, needs to be heard. I have no balance. Society has no balance unless we strengthen that voice. Not recently. Freeman sounds familiar. The other one doesn't. Okay. Very good. It also results in ineffective, and this is kind of a problematic word, change it. Ineffective relational intelligence. I don't need to be good at relationships. Society protects me in so many other different ways as a white male. And by oppressing that half of me, it puts me in a position to not be good with relationships with others because I'm not in good relationship with myself. If I have 35 years of oppression of half of me, my God, what was I willing to participate in out there that was oppressive? And it seems so natural. I cannot be in good relationship with others unless I am in good relationship with myself. What I am telling you with psychological patriarchy is you need to be working on your relationship with yourself, the feminine and the masculine side. Ineffective relational intelligence and exaggerated focus on substantive issues. We put way too much emphasis on the substantive parts of the conflict, less on the relational. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. So who do you have at the table? I want to remind you one more time. This slide is here to remind us that it could be a male body at that table, but it could be a female negotiator. You need to be paying attention. All right? The goal is empowerment. So how are we going to do that? If my goal is empowerment and I've got an oppressed body, an oppressed voice at this table due to psychological patriarchy, what do? Here's your role. Empower the feminine to speak and empower the masculine to listen. The masculine voice doesn't need power. It's got all the power now. It has all the power it needs. It needs to listen. You can create that dynamic here with your skills. All right? Say it again. With your skills, the techniques that I've been teaching you. So, when the feminine at the table, could be a man body, okay? When the feminine at the table is in trouble, empower the feminine. When the masculine is in trouble at the table, empower the feminine. The masculine doesn't need empowerment. Your task is cut in half. You need to be paying attention to the minority voice in that room. You need to be paying attention to the minority voice inside of you.
You mean that?
Huh?
You mean that?
All right. Do it this way. I got two guys here, right? Two male bodies. Jack, I'm going to put you through this uncomfortable proposition. Jack is the female negotiator at this table. You're the male negotiator at this table, okay? If the female starts to get in trouble at this table, right, I need to reach in and empower the feminine side. If the masculine gets in trouble, I need to reach in and empower the feminine side. I don't come over here and empower him.
Same thing.
I know. Yeah. That's exactly what that slide says.
That's what I'm saying.
I need to reach inside you and empower that feminine side. Not this. This is already, the feminine voice over here is going fine. The masculine over here is not. I need to reach in and empower that feminine side. How do I go about doing that? Much of it is future-oriented. Remember, the male, one up, one down world resists the relaxation into connection and repair. What I'm going to be talking about is how do you want to understand the connection? Do you understand any sense of repair? If you do in the slightest, I'm reaching in here and empowering that side of you that the masculine has silenced. Now, I may not succeed. I may fail. And if I do, here's what happens when the masculine is in trouble at that table. I'm about to lose you. You're about to storm out of here. The masculine in trouble will retaliate, diminish, or run away. So I'm going to try to reach in here and raise the value of connection and repair. I probably won't use those words. Raise the possibility of reconciliation. Raise the possibility of repair. Okay? And see how it sits with you. If I fail, I was going to lose you anyways. You're about to storm out of here.
So can you repeat that? What were you doing?
Reach in and empower his feminine side. He can't do it.
By doing what?
By asking him about issues of repair and connection. Now, there's a number of ways to do that. And I don't have to just say, well, what do you want to, you want to be repaired with Jack? He's never going to answer that. He's going to say no, right? Because that sounds like repair is a sign of weakness. Connection is a sign of weakness. He's already in trouble. He's already feeling as though he's going to lose, so he's about to storm out. So any sense of repair is going to look like weakness. He's going to feel even more feminine if I'm not careful. So I've got to talk about the future. What do you want the future to look like? What do you want the future to look like with him? What do you want the future to look like for you? The number one technique for doing this is need exploration. I'll show you that next. Okay? Is it making more sense? A little bit. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm not talking bodies, right? Yes, I'm saying the feminist side is future oriented more than the, yes.
When you go in there and you have a conference around a mediation and you have this male that comment, so you're using the feminine approach to him.
Right.
That way
Yes. Empowering the feminine. Mm-hmm.
And when facing the feminine problem, empowering the feminine.
Yes.
So I'm sitting here and you're empowering the female, and then when the female has a good point against me, you're empowering her again. I'm saying, hey man, you know, you meet come over here, you're taking her side of this thing.
All right, and that's not what I'm doing, because you've identified her body as the feminine side. That's not what. So here, let's do it this way. She's in the room, you're in the room. You're the female negotiator in this room. All right, you got a male body. We're all convinced of that. So she's the male negotiator in this room. She's got a female body, but she's aggressive, she's controlling, she's one up. All right, she is going to crush you, and if she smells blood, you're doomed. That's the way the male negotiator works. She smells any sense of weakness, she's going to roll right over you and crush you like a flower. That's the male negotiator. I need to reach inside of her and empower the feminine voice. Got it? So don't get caught up in the body. Get caught up in the language. Get caught up in the attitude. Well, there you go. All right, for the sake of time, I'm going to get to the techniques. I'm going to skip the repair part, talking about relational repair and feminine and male, and let's get to the techniques. One technique I want you to be careful of is truth alert. Remember we talked about that the other day? The truth doesn't resolve conflicts. I don't need to get into a perception battle between two parties. So what that means is, let's say I'm going to make Greg my feminine at this time, and you're going to get it to be my masculine again. And now she comes across, and she is rolling over him. She is intimidating. She is dismissing everything he has to say. So he speaks up, let's say he tries to do this, and goes, you know, I understand that you don't agree with my reality, and I understand that you think my reality is no good and of no value, but it's important to me. Now, if he has any kind of a voice, he can say that. If he doesn't, I as the mediator can say that. You know, I understand there are 2 points of view in this room. I'm interested in both points of view. So that the reality that you are dismissing, I'm not going to say this, but the reality that you are dismissing, I am going to find very much valuable. See? Infuse value in it in order to empower this side. She's dismissing it in her masculine negotiator role. I'm giving it power. I'm empowering the feminine. It's very important to me. There are 2 realities here. I like them both. Please, tell me again what happened. And you won't let him put a word in edgewise. So I... Yes. And like I said, these were advanced skills. So it really works better if I'm talking to a room of people who've done 25 cases, because they're going, oh, yeah, okay, oh, yeah. So that's how you deal with that kind of a person. Okay, yeah. Because they've seen it. So don't get caught up in, yes, there are two realities. I want to address it. I'm interested in it. I need to have this. Okay? Even though the other person's crushing it. Listen. Listen is a huge reconciliation technique. In fact, the whole point of listening is repair. The only reason anybody listens at all is to create connection and repair. That's the only reason. Unless you're listening so I can crush you, I suppose. But to let someone in enough to hear their ideas is a vulnerability and openness. That's at least the beginning of connection. But there's two places you can listen. You can listen inside you. Remember, and please don't minimize this, the battle I'm describing at this table exists inside of you every moment of every single day. How are you treating yourself? How sensitive are you to the fact that you are an oppressor of your feminine side? If you are not actively, you are at least passively by condoning it. You are a bystander if you're not careful. If you will pay attention to this war, this battle for your very self inside of you, you will be far more effective at this table. You will hear it, you will see it, you will notice it. Okay? Now, the other place to listen is between them. Listen for the fear, listen for the self-image. So as soon as in a one-up, one-down world, the masculine negotiator is at risk, you will hear the fear. They're about to storm out, they're going to slap the table, they're going to yell at the other person, they're going to find some way to get back into position as best they can. Usually that's by shaming, dismissing, assaulting the other person. Okay? So listen for that between them. Also, I want to remind you that in the process, 2 steps out of 6 are designed for listening. 2. That's pretty much all. Party's opening statement, that's all you're doing is listening. That 1 step is entirely around listening. And joint discussion is also about listening. You're going to listen in the rest of them as well, but right here, right up front at the beginning of the mediation process, 2 steps designed for listening. Listen relationally. What's going on relationally? Not just substantively. What are the facts of this case? What's the amount of money? How much is owed? What can we prove? That's substance stuff. What about relationship? And I'm here to tell you, you are at the service of the speaker. I will model for you listening. I will model for you relational listening. I will create connection in that room. Now, I got to be careful how I do that because I can risk neutrality. But I'll be connected to you in your opening statement. You're the center of attention right now. I've shifted my chair. Eye contact, body language. You're the most important. What you have to say is all there is right now in this universe. That's connection. Then I'm going to turn my table. I'm going to do it here. When I get into caucus, I change my body language. I don't know if you noticed it, but when you watch the role play tomorrow with the 5 videos, you'll see I shift my chair. I get much more relaxed. It's much more conversational. I'm building connection. Relational. The party really wants to know, does the other person really care? And then you're saying, whether the party does or not, I will listen to you. So you're modeling that. It's a powerful moment. This is the most important technique, and here's why. Need exploration. We spent 2 hours on it yesterday. Need exploration brings a party down from grandiosity. Because what does grandiosity say? I don't need any of you. I am self-sufficient. I don't need to reach out and have any connection. I'm an island. I'm fine. Grandiosity, everybody has needs. Basic human needs. If I can discover that need, pull them down from grandiosity. What does shame say? Need exploration pulls them up from shame. Here's how this works. And now I have 2 people willing to share their needs with each other to make a decision about their future. That's connection. That's equality or equitable standing with each other. The shame person says, my needs aren't important. Everybody else's needs are. I do need exploration. You have a need. It needs to be addressed here. Grandiosity, I have no needs. You have a need. It can be addressed here. Need meets need. That's why I need you to do, here it is again. Remember, I told you, my soapbox, standing up and down. You've got to do a caucus with the respondent. We're not just there servicing the complainant. 2 sets of needs in that room. It's critical. Requirements. If we are ever going to have lasting change, if we're going to make any impact at all in society as far as a difference is concerned about these problems, we are doing a lot socially, social justice, reorganizing, giving women a chance to move up, removing glass ceilings, doing equal pay. We're doing a lot of that out there. We need to be working inside here as well. And if we expect to find any sense of lasting change, we need 3 things. We need new behavior modeled somewhere. Somewhere where someone can be feminine and not risk being killed at the end of the day. Where we can cry at a CEO office meeting and not risk our career. Where can this be happening? Where can this new behavior be modeled? We have to have safe space available so that my job isn't going to be at risk if I try to be connectional and screw it up. And we also need to associate with people, like-minded people. You are the person you are 5 years from now based on the people you associate with and the books you read. It's the only thing that's going to change. Okay? Those 2 components. You are the person you are going to be 5 years from now based upon the people you associate with and the books you read. Basically what you were saying earlier about changing the... All right? So what we need is a place to go, someplace, say maybe at night after work, where I can come into a room, stand up at a podium and tell everybody, hi, my name's Rick, I'm relationally impaired. And everybody goes, hi, Rick. So you two, you know of an AA meeting as well, right? We have to have this kind of support system, an Al-Anon group for patriarchy. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Well, I don't see any of that happening anytime soon, but it would be great if it did. Here's what Pia Melody and Terrence Real in their research in this area has accomplished and done. And let me tell you who Pia Melody is. Anything you have ever heard about codependence, the terminology itself and all the research, Pia is the person who created all of that research. She is the founder of all of that. So anything about codependency, you know it's because of what Pia's research has accomplished. Terry studied with Pia. Okay? And they came, Pia. Terry studied with Pia. P-I-A. Actually, it's at the credits at the end, I think, is Pia's, might be mentioned. Pia Melody. M-E-L-O-D-Y. Melody. Okay? These are the dysfunctional traits on the extreme side of the masculine, dysfunctional traits on the extreme side of the feminine. All right? These are the relational, dysfunctional traits. Grandiosity on the masculine side, far extreme, one side. On the other side is shame, feminine. The dysfunctional trait on the far side of the relational spectrum is self is good and perfect. I can't make any mistakes, or at least I can't let anybody know I've made mistakes. When I do make a mistake, I beat myself up so I don't do it again. When those around me make a mistake, I beat them up so they don't. Why? Because the relationship I have with myself. I'll give you a sidebar here. Over many years of my entrepreneurial trek, I've had several business coaches that I've hired and worked with. I had a business coach that I was working with a group of people that were not carrying their weight. They were not being as professional or as responsible as me, right? Or so I thought. So I come to him and we're having our coaching session. I say, these people I follow, surrounded by a bunch of losers. I mean, they're not taking their responsibility. They're not getting any of the work done. And he stops me and says, you're pretty hard on yourself, aren't you? I mean, you push yourself pretty hard. I said, yeah. And when you make a mistake, you're not tolerant very much of your mistakes, are you? I said, oh no, when I make a mistake, man, nobody could beat me up more than me. And he looked at me and says, and that's why you fail. He says, that's why you're surrounded by people like you. He said, the day you start to be gracious and forgiving to yourself, you will be more gracious and forgiving to the people who work with you. And I go, no, this isn't about me. This is about these losers out there that aren't doing their job. He goes, no. When you learn to be gracious and forgiving to yourself, you'll be more gracious and forgiving to others. I did not want to hear that. And I worked hard on that for many, many, many months. And he was right. The people I have around me now, far different. Self is perfect. I would not allow mistakes here. And it affected my personal and professional relationships. The dysfunctional extreme on the other end of the feminine side is self is defective. I can't do anything right. I need people to tell me what to do. I hear my girlfriend, I'm directionally challenged. My youngest daughter said this, I'm directionally challenged. North, south, east, but don't give me directions. I can't, right? I'm defective. There's something wrong with me. On boundaries, the far dysfunctional side for the male, walls, castle, a moat around it. There's no windows or doors. I'm a castle. Nobody can get in. I'm protected. On the other side for women, the extreme is no boundaries at all. Come on in. Everybody's invited. Tell me who I need to be today. I'm just the hostess. You are all in charge. Anti-dependency. I'm a rock. I'm an island. I don't need anybody. Over-dependency. I need you in my life. Please don't leave me. My life will fall apart. Super maturity and super immaturity. The question is, if those are the extreme dysfunctional relational traits, what's the middle ground look like? If we could put the two sides back together and pretend we'd never tore them apart to begin with. Terry tells the story of he's got 2 boys. That's why he's interested in this. And just to give you a sense of how powerful this is. His son, 2002, 9-year-old, had a bunch of his friends over. They're downstairs playing in the family room and having a great time. He's got a 4-year-old whose favorite pastime is to run through the house with a cape, a towel usually pinned around his neck, right, a cape, and a pink tutu. Okay? So there's these boys downstairs, and he's thinking, audience, this is going to be great. Runs upstairs, gets his towel on, finds his pink tutu, puts it on, comes running downstairs, turns the corner into the room, and does this. Ta-da! He doesn't do ta-da, but ta-da! Not a word was spoken. Nobody giggled. Nobody smirked. Nobody made a comment. A bunch of 9-year-old boys. That 4-year-old never wore that outfit again. That one instant. He got the message. That's how prevalent how insidious it can be. So what would it look like? So the rest of us are going, well, thank God, that kid had been killed, right? He kept wearing a pink tutu around, right? But what would it look like in society for somebody to do that and it not faze us a bit? Not to have a twinge at all. What would this middle ground look like? Here's what they suggested is the middle ground. The characteristic traits that would be healthy. The middle ground between grandiosity and shame is relational intelligence. We understand relationship, we understand repair, we understand connections, and we are good at it. The middle ground between self is perfect and self is defective is voice. I have a voice. I'm not always right, but it's my voice. I can speak it and feel confident and feel respected for that voice. It's not oppressed, it's not diminished, it's not demeaned. The middle ground between bad boundaries, wall on one side, and porous, broken fences, is the ability to listen. Listen is letting someone in. I'm going to let my moat down. I'm going to open the door. I'm going to invite you into my fence, my boundaries, and I'm going to let you in to hear who you are, what you have to say. You don't have to take up residence. But I can let you in. I can listen to you. The middle ground, they say, between dependency and independency and overdependency is the ability to negotiate. You know what? I need you sometimes. I don't need you to complete me. I can do that on my own. I'm not helpless, but I want you in my life. And we'll negotiate. I'll do these things for you, you do these things for me, and we'll make this a mutual relationship. And the middle ground between supermaturity and super immaturity is stay the course. The word they used is integrity. That regardless of who's looking, regardless of who's not looking, regardless of the circumstances, they will stick with their principles. Now, here's what I need you to consider. What is it you do sitting in this chair at the head of this table if it is not model relational intelligence? What is it you do as a professional mediator sitting in this chair between two conflicting parties if it's not provide voice? What is it you do? Provide voice. Empower voice. What is it you do as a mediator in that chair if it's not listen? And what is it you do as a mediator if it's not help people negotiate? To understand negotiation and how it is done for people to come together in connection and repair. And what is it you do in that chair if it's not maintain integrity? In your case, integrity of this process. I submit to you, for your consideration, that the very characteristics of health that manifest the balance between the feminine and the masculine are manifest in the skills you hone and develop as a mediator in this chair. There is a lot more going on at this table than settlement. You have in your hands, at your fingertips, an industry and a skill that has the power, if this is true, to model that middle ground that's missing. That's why I love this field. Questions, thoughts, concerns, frustrations? Credit? How can I get through to you? 2002. Thank you. No thoughts, concerns, frustrations? All right, you want to take a quick break and come back? All right.